Live from iRacing's virtual Martinsville Speedway in Ridgeway, Virginia, we say good evening, sim racing fans, and welcome to the 2023 eRacing Association Omega Cup Fall Bowl. Well, we're happy to have you strapped into the virtual seat and along for the ride with us tonight on Podium. My name is Evan Pasoko, alongside with Joe Peak and Joey Atterbury. Our producer downstairs is Ryan Bauer. Well, Joe, go to you first on this one, because this is a pretty major event. This is the only event on the eRacing Omega Cup Fall Bowl, and for the whole schedule, who hasn't had a third iteration. So after tonight, we've officially been racing with the eRacing Omega Cup for 3 years now. We've seen various different winners, thousands of dollars in prize money handed out, and we're going to do a little bit more here tonight.
Absolutely, and I love the way that they bring all different types of folks in. So those that think that, they could take it up against the biggest and the best out there in the sim racing world, they can get their shot.
Yeah, they can, and it's going to be a lot of heavy hitters, names that you recognize from the likes of the NASCAR, Coca-Cola iRacing Series, and others, against Joey, some names we may not be familiar with yet. They're hoping to change that here tonight, and they've got a tricky challenge on deck here at Martinsville.
I think the eRacing Omega Cup, it provides some of those drivers that platform to leapfrog themselves into that category that says, hey, you know what? I want to start taking home some cash and really become competitive out here.
Well, that's my big thing, is there is $5,000 on the line, Joe, here tonight, 4,000 of which will go to the eventual race winner. I mean, those are top level payouts, not just here in iRacing, but kind of sim racing as a whole. So this is a major event, I think, for several drivers in the field, one of the biggest they've competed in on the iRacing platform.
Yeah, that's not just pocket change that we're talking about here. That's going to motivate everybody to really race as hard as they can. Yeah, we're here for fun and we're here for the enjoyment of it, but who doesn't want to take away $4,000?
Yeah, if you guys are cool with it, you guys just stay up here in the booth. I'm going to go jump behind the wheel and see if I can try my hand at getting a little bit of that cash money. And what we want to do now is introduce you to some of the drivers that we'll be talking with over the course of the night, and some drivers that we'll see down trackside with us. And first up is Brandon Barrier. Brandon, we appreciate the time, man. Thanks for jumping upstairs and chatting with us. And tell us about what this race will be like for you. I mean, your goal is to get to the eNASCAR ranks, the Coke Series, and you've got some of those Coke Series level talent here racing head-to-head with you tonight.
Yeah, it's going to definitely be exciting. First time coming out doing this Omega Cup by making it. Tried at Talladega and got it by missed it by 2 spots. But this is my home track. I live about 20 minutes from here and looking to try to get at least a top 20 for my first go at it. But we're going to always go for the win.
It's a good-looking 53 Chevrolet. I know there's a story behind why that is your car number. Why don't you tell us about it?
Yeah, so both my kids, we just had a newborn on August 23rd, and both our kids are born in August, so 53, 5 plus 3 is 8, so it's for my kids. And basically my motto is, it's just my legacy for family.
Well, listen, don't sell yourself short either in this race. I know that you won a league race here at Martinsville on Monday in these cup cars. How do you think maybe that can translate into your favor when we're talking about fixed setups in such a diverse, talented field?
I'm pretty sure I got a good feel for the track. I know this track pretty well, like the back of my hand pretty much, but I think going forward in this race is just going to be focusing on what's ahead of me and just watching out the windshield and hoping nobody cleans out the bumper.
With Martinsville, that's always a concern, Brandon. We'll let you jet out of here and get ready for the race. We appreciate the time. Good luck tonight.
All right, thank you. I want to shout out to Malik Gray and Jordy Lopez for the help. Shout out to my wife, Courtney, my 2 kids, Elena and Chase, and my buddy, Joe Hobbs, that's in the field as well.
That's the driver of the 53 Chevy, Brandon Barrier, looking for a good debut here tonight in the eRacing Omega Cup. We'll continue on down the list of competitors. Joey, you're standing by with Alex Jones.
Yeah, Alex is one of the younger competitors here, 16 years old, from Carmel, Indiana. How's it going out there, Alex?
Doing good, doing good.
How are you feeling coming into tonight's race at Martinsville? This is the paperclip. It's a challenge for everybody out there. What's your confidence level like?
Yeah, qualified 20th here, so not amazing, but better than Charlotte just a while ago. And I have had quite a few race laps under my belt this week, having run an Xfinity race here, so feeling quite good about race pace.
It seems like you do quite a bit of iRacing. You were the Indiana State High School iRacing champ last year. Tell us, what was that like?
Yeah, it's a great experience. A lot of great competitors in there, and we it's very competitive. So, and yeah, it's great. I'm sitting back here. So yeah.
That's an impressive trophy that you got there. And I also understand that you're a former go-kart racer. Is some of that real-world knowledge kind of translating and helping you here in the sim?
Yeah, the go-karting has been great. Learned quite a lot, and especially about the setups here in iRacing. Of course, that doesn't really affect me here, but a lot in open setup races have helped me a lot. So yeah.
My last question here for you is, what really draws you to the ERA Omega Cup stuff? I saw that you got 13th here. Is it mainly the money that you're coming after when you come and compete here, or what draws you to these races?
Some great competition, some amazing drivers racing here. So I'm just kind of trying to see like where I stand, get some experience with some better competition, and just kind of make my way there, you know?
Well, good luck out there tonight at Martinsville, Alex.
Yeah, thank you.
That was Alex Jones. He's going to be rolling off 20th tonight here in Martinsville.
And of course, we've also got Garrett Maines. We were talking there to a couple of the drivers that are coming in to try and prove themselves as worthy to be among the fastest. But Garrett has already been racing with some of the fastest coming from the NASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing series. Garrett, does that make you feel like you have a bit of a target on your back here, that everybody is kind of looking at you, that you have to be fast?
Well, we'll see. I'm not the leader yet, but I think whoever's in front going into turn 1 or turn 3 is going to have a target on their back. We've never raced this place in Coke, but this has always been one of my favorite tracks that I would have loved to see on the schedule. So hopefully we can get it done tonight.
Well, and speaking of which, you've got 3 years under your belt racing in that series. Do you feel like that helps prepare you for a race like this where there's so much on the line?
I mean, it does and it doesn't. I feel like running races like this prepares you pretty well, because I feel like there's honestly more at stake in just a single race in this series than anything else. So it's always fun. You guys do a great job with the broadcast, and these races are always wild. I mean, there's a lot of talent that shows up for these. So it should be a good battle. I remember last year, Irwindale was a nail biter the entire race. I had Vicente breathing down my neck for the last like 50 laps. So hopefully we can get out front again tonight and finish the job.
Yeah, and it's another short track, so it'll certainly be exciting. One more real quick one before you go. Who have you got your eye on? Who you think is your greatest competition?
The two people starting in front of me, Busa and Malik, I think are definitely the contenders tonight. I think Andre is somewhere. He's actually starting right behind me. Sorry, I missed that. Yeah, I think the 6 of them are actually going to be, it's going to be whoever's out front is going to have a really good shot. It's always difficult because we're shifting in this car. I'm pretty sure everybody up here is shifting, and it's already hard to get into the corner deeper than the guy in front of you because of that. Like, you're already on the brakes as hard as possible. So there's not a whole lot of like roll time at the center of the corner before you're getting back on the gas, just because that gearing really woes you up quickly. So it'll be interesting to see who can get to who, because not only that, but we're doing a little bit of hopping getting down into the corner, and we'll just, see who can keep it clean. It's difficult to get to somebody's bumper without getting to somebody's left rear. So we'll try to keep it clean, and hopefully it'll be a good show.
We'll look out for you. That's Garrett Maines starting from 3rd on the grid, Evan.
What a big thanks to Garrett, the rest of our drivers for chatting with us here pre-race, and we are about set to say let's go racing. So to get tonight's festivities kicked off, let's go down trackside for tonight's national anthem performed by Nashville recording artist Jared Ashley.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we held at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet.
And now for the most famous words in motorsports, we welcome former WWE superstar Ted DiBiase Jr.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages, sizes, backgrounds, Ted DiBiase Jr. here, former WWE superstar, coming at you tonight, coming in hot, and it is my honor to get this party started tonight. I'm ready to see who's gonna take home the money. So, without further ado, drivers, start your engines!
And with that, let's go trackside and take a look at your ERA's starting grid. And pole position tonight belongs to Briar LaPrade. He'll bring us to the green flag alongside Logan Clampett. That is a star-studded row 1. The heavy hitters continue on row 2. Garrett Main's going to start to the inside in 3rd, with Matt Busa to the outside in P4. It's an all-Coke lockout for those two. Andre Casto will start from P5 to his outside. Chase Pierce in the number 6 spot. They'll make up row number 3. Row 4 will see the 18 of Cody Smith inside Francisco Villarreal in the number 8 spot. And rounding through your top 10, it is Junsu Lim in 9th and Yakov Kursanov in P10.
Jason Raycock is going to be starting in the 11th position. Luis Vega will be in 12th as Sid Waters starts in 13th. Then to his outside, Nick Jerkovich is then followed by Jason Maines, the father of Garrett Maines, racing him tonight. It's going to be Aaron Raymond in the 16th position, followed by Matt Johnson, P17, and then Brandon Barrier, who we talked to a little bit earlier, will begin from 18th. Kwame Scott starts 19th. Outside of the 10th row is Alex Jones.
Then we have Austin Jackson in 21st, Braden Black 22nd, Michael Richardson in 23rd, Alex Thurber 24th. Then in 25th, we have John Ward, Joseph Kogler in 26th, Joe Hobbs in 27th here, and Hayden Swank 28th, Jake Balmain in 29th, Austin Pitt in 30th, and just a few more here. Malik Ray starting back in 31st, Travis Trevelyan and Dan Lipinski are going to round out all of the cars here tonight.
And all those cars 31st on the back and no times in qualifying, so they will start on the grid based on provisionals. Will we fly in from high and above this virtual Martinsville Speedway? Tell us a little bit more about it, Joe.
Well, as you can see, 12 degrees in the corners. It's just over half a mile, but it's often described as the oval that races a bit like a road course. The drivers who are very good on the brakes, balancing the car, getting into it, and then being good on the throttle coming out are the ones that are going to thrive here tonight. It is going to be a serious challenge, and it is going to be close quarters fighting.
This is the 12th race in the history of the ERA Omega Cup, but we have never raced before here at Martinsville. Joey, let's take a look at a race analysis.
Yeah, here at Martinsville, the half-mile paperclip and $5,000 in prize pool given away. 150 laps is what we're going to be doing tonight, 78 miles. 3 green-white checkered attempts if we're going to need them. 1 fast repair is available if you get into trouble early. And then, as always, that fixed setup that everybody is on. So it's about each and every driver maximizing their equipment.
No car better than another. It is an equal playing field, and that fixed setup, a custom-built one as well. So we hear it's going to allow drivers to maybe be a little bit more aggressive with the curbs on the inside of the turns. We'll see how that plays a factor as the sun has dipped well behind the grandstands, and we're ready. We're happy that you're joining us here on Podium Esports, the field in the hands of Briar LaPrade with $5 grand on the line. We say, let's go racing at Martinsville. It's an early advantage for pole sitter the 19 of Briar LaPrade. The fight behind going to be for second spot. Mains on the inside, Clamp it on the outside. In midfield, plenty of 2x2 as they head to turn 3.
Villarreal already got a big piece of the wall there coming out of 2, and the number 24 watching from the 42. Nick, and we've already got a caution. It looks like maybe Matt Johnson in the back.
Unfortunately, just the number 17, you called it, Matt Johnson, turned around coming out of turn number 4. Going to catch this replay here. See exactly what happens. You see maybe a little bit of contact right in front of him, but everything looks pretty okay so far. I wonder if maybe he just gets in a little bit deep here. Maybe gets checked up, and you know what? No, he got a little bit of help from the back end. Just that slightest bit of contact at that corner exit turned him around.
We saw the cars in front check up, and here's the perspective from Alex Jones, who we talked with pre-race about it, just to the outside of that as the 17 goes spinning underneath him. The checkup kind of brought Johnson back towards Braden Black, and then it was that 26. I referenced curbs not all that long ago. Got onto the curbs a little bit. Didn't necessarily upset his race car, but it put him into the left rear of the car up the road. And unfortunate there was nothing that Matt Johnson could have done. He was running right in the midfield in P18. And courtesy of that spin, he's going to drop all the way down to the rear. Now scored 33rd out of 33 cars in the field. So a quick yellow to reset things. No major changes. Couple of spots gained here or there. The big change notably is that 20 Garrett Mains was able, Joe, to use the inside of row number 2 to jump from 3rd to 2nd. So that was good on the initial start, and he jumps up to P2. However, it's just going to be a role reversal now because he'll go to the outside of control car LaPrade, and Logan Clampett getting an opportunity to steal that spot right back.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of one of those things where if you can, you want to be in one of those odd positions, but you can't always control that. That said, he might still have opportunities from the outside. It depends on how things go there for the 44 of Clampett on the inside through the corner. He could mess it up, leave a hole open, and if that appears, Garrett's going to have to dive down quick.
Looks like pace car is going to be coming off of the racetrack right here in turn number 3. It's going to be Brian LaPrade in that number 19 car, keeping them all the way to the outside of the racetrack and actually standing on the gas. Barney waves the green flag, and we are racing one more time at Martinsville.
Unique start for the 19, but it accomplishes his goal. He is through and clear off at 2. Now here comes Clampett up the inside of the 20 of Mains, side by side for 2nd with Andre Castro watching on from 4th. It's going to be tricky for that 20 of Mains to seal off that 44 underneath him and take this P2 away. And this is good news that the longer that battle goes, the more of an opportunity Pryor's going to have to try to pull away, but it ends in short order. So clear for 2nd is Clampett. 1, 2, 3 back to where they started, but a nice cross. Mains to the inside. Won't matter. A yellow flies behind before he can challenge. It's a stack up headed into turn 3. Travis Trevelyan Dan Lipinski, and more slow on the back straightaway.
I think this started with the 81 of Sid Waters, and this is a good example of what I talked about before. Getting off the corners is where you got to watch out for a lot of the times. There's a lot of power underneath these things, and it's just going to snap on him so quick. Just one little wiggle is all it took, and he was into the wall, just a passenger, and everybody else kind of had to do their best to avoid, but you can see that's easier said than done here.
And I actually think this is a little bit of a characteristic with these new race cars, that they don't really have that yaw angle that the older cars have. So when they start to slide, it really starts to snap on you. And then what we saw at the tail end of that wreck is really how narrow Martinsville is. We think of it as not a very high-speed racetrack, but trust me, there is not much room to move around if something goes wrong in front of you.
You saw Trevelyan get away, I think, with what wasn't all that bad, all things considered. I think it certainly could have been worse for him, so he was able to check up, avoid major damage, and it was looked chaotic, but not that many cars actually torn up when it's all said and done. And as some of the drivers we spoke with pre-race mentioned, of course, qualifying into this race is a per-event basis, which means if you're tuning in at home and want to get in on the action, you can do that as well. You can log on to eragaming.gg/membership and join today. And it'll allow you to compete in all of the eRacing Association sanctioned events, as well as have opportunities to compete in the ERA Omega Cup for all the special events. Mentioned that this is kind of the end of year 3. This is the final event coming up on its 3rd anniversary, and we start year 4 just in a couple of months, as the Winter Bowl will return this December. So again, that's eragaming.gg/membership to make sure you stay in the loop and get involved.
Well, right now, you got to stay in the loop on what's happening out on track around you. It seems like we've already seen it twice now, that just close racing means that things are going to be tight, and you have to be very, very aware of your surroundings in this style of racing, and give a little bit of space early on. That's going to change towards the end, but definitely just maybe leave a little margin.
Well, looks like once again that pace car has come off of the racetrack. It is once again in the hands of Brian LaPrade. That is the purple, black, and blue number 19 on the bottom of the racetrack, and he grabs a gear, accelerating. Green flag racing again here at Martinsville.
And first time we've seen the outside challenge for the lead off of the restart. Advantage to LaPrade down low, but fighting hard is Logan Clampett. He lurches ahead as they drive off to turn 3. The 44 are going to pinch real tight there, and at the line there's contact. Clampett goes into the outside wall. At the stripe though, lap still led by LaPrade. Now he'll get forced out 3 wide, and all the way to the race lead goes Garrett Maines. 3 wide now for second.
If you break too deep for these corners, you are going to pay for it. As long as anybody's within striking range, they're going to snatch that up. As we get another yellow very quickly, it looks like maybe Braden Black again.
Fortunately, it looks like, yeah, this is Braden Black turned around on the racetrack. This is entering turn number 3 where this happens, and unfortunately, we already talked about some cars getting in too deep. Well, the number 28 just overshoots the brake marker going here into turn number 3, and unfortunately, Braden Black was an innocent victim.
Bonside him there, headed off to turn number 3. I know that the 28's got the Napa logo on it, but the way he drove it into 3, you would have thought it was a FedEx Toyota to clean out the car in front of him. And here's Malik Ray, maybe forcing the error there, right? I mean, you got Malik Ray, who didn't take a time into qualifying. Joe started at the back based on a provisional, breathing down my neck. Malik's going to drive it in deep. The 28 might have been caught watching the mirror a little bit there instead of the braking point.
Yeah, and that's very easy to do, and that's why you always need to be more focused forward than anything. Don't worry about what those behind you are doing right now. Just try to watch out for what's going on ahead. Now, there will be perhaps points later on. Will be a good idea to watch out, especially racing side by side as we've seen. But yeah, I'd say looking down the road's probably going to be the wiser idea here.
Well, I'm just curious to see if we're going to be getting some green flag racing going back, because it's been pretty choppy here to start the first 17 laps. I wonder if we're going to get into a rhythm eventually.
That's going to be the key, right? Is a race like this where we've got prior ERA race winners in the field. We have drivers making their first ERA starts here tonight in the Omega Cup Series. It is going to take a little bit of feeling out, right? How do you interact with the drivers around you? Who's going to be braking later? Who's going to be driving off the corner better? You got to learn the cars around you, and you can't really learn until you can get a little bit of the green flag pace, right? Martinsville has never seen a race in the ERA Omega Cup Series, so it's the first time for the series here as well. So that's certainly a learning process. I think maybe you get those yellows early, Joe, maybe some green flag action towards the middle of our 200 or 150 laps, but we'll have to wait and see.
That's what we're hoping will be the case. But yeah, typically this isn't too shocking to see a lot of new drivers around one another, just kind of having to feel it out a little bit. Like I said, everybody's going to be very competitive tonight just because the prize is on hand. So once they all get into the rhythm, I do think we'll start to see some more good racing going. Now, what will be really interesting, though, is since we haven't lost anybody, is when that green flag racing goes, then you got to deal with the lap traffic, which will be its own kettle of fish.
Going to be something that everybody will have to deal with. And I'm looking through, yeah, you're right, the majority of the cars are on the lead lap. I'm seeing 30 of the 33 cars still on the lead lap, and lap traffic will come into play. I think the other thing is the drivers, they're going to have to keep their emotions in check, because when you have this many cars on this short of a racetrack, you're bound to be caught up maybe on the outside of somebody or behind a slower car that you just feel like you can't get around. So how are the drivers going to handle their emotions?
All 33 cars who started this race still on track. However, Alex Thurber and Jason Maines have fallen a lap down. They're 31st and 32nd. Austin Pitt 3 laps down in 33rd. That leaves us with 30 cars, 15 rows deep, still on the lead lap. So Garrett Maines' first opportunity as a control car tonight, took the lead just before the last yellow. He'll bring us back to the green flag with 20 laps down.
Doing a really good jump there down into the first corner. That left Logan out to drive, but I don't think he minded it because he jumped down to the bottom as quickly as he could. That actually helped him, if anything. So now it's going to be between LaPrade and Castro to try and sort out that third spot.
I've been watching this 34 of Andre Castro, and he was the one that took it 3 wide on that previous green flag, but unfortunately looks like we've got another yellow flag on the racetrack. Maybe Dan Lipinski might be involved in this one, as well as a few others.
Lipinski's slow to move, and let's see what happened. It's that green and black 33 top side of your screen. Matt Johnson also lost some spots, so keep a half eye on that 17 Goodwrench Chevy up the road as well, who was involved. Oh, and it started there. Contact between the 17 and the 22, and the 17 was along for the ride, and unfortunately, no escape route for that 33 car up top just got cleaned out.
Well, I think that's going to give us a good opportunity for a break here. So I do believe we'll be back in just a bit, but for now, stick around because there's plenty more racing to come.
struggle finding someone to race with, someone to compete with, or flat out, someone just to give the Gap sauce, well, you should check out the Gap'em app. Gap'em is the only app that will allow you to race people locally, share videos, and attend events. And after you race, you can actually take your racing video and post it in the Gap'em Postum section so the whole world can see. And even if you're not a racer, you can always head to our Gap'em app crew mode section where you and some friends can continue to meet up, go to car meets, go to car events, car shows, anything that has nothing to do with going to the racetrack. Gap'em is a one-stop shop.
Green flag back in the air here at Martinsville. Garrett Maines, the control car. He'll be cleared at turn number 1. It's clamp it through to second. And once more, the fight is on for third. LaPrade on the outside, and it's Castro on the inside.
Pratt is probably really ruined having that one corner where he went wide, because it's kind of sent him back here. He hasn't been able to do much with Castro with all the yellow flags that we've been having. Let's hope that we get some green flag racing so we can see this sort out. It does look like the 34 is going to claim that third.
Yeah, and Briar LaPrade was able to sneak back into line, and that is so crucial here at Martinsville when you get these long single-file trains. If you get stuck on the outside, you're not losing just one position, but potentially 3, 4, 5, and it looks like we got another yellow flag on the racetrack.
LaPrade was desperate to make a move. You saw how aggressive he was. He'll have to wait as Jake Balmain will get the number 83 Chevrolet turned back around. And we look to see what happened to the driver who was in 24th position. And I think the storyline here is going to be getting back in line, Joe. It's something that Joey just referenced. Maines was able to do it. In this case, Balmain was not. Went to the outside, and I don't know if he was trying to go for a cross or simply missed the corner and wanted to tuck back in line. But when he tried to go back under behind the 22, that gap had been filled by Sid Waters.
Yeah, and I can't blame Sid for trying things here. And you can see from behind, oof, wow, actually it looks like Sid even got a little thwack into the wall just because he was trying to check up and stay out of things there. So we really didn't have anybody that got away clean on this one. Everybody kind of had a little damage out of that. We have had a few cars in pit lane, but I'm expecting it's mostly going to be those that got involved or are towards the back trying to maybe do something different.
And it was the 17 of Matt Johnson that was the one that got into the back of the 81 of Sid Waters there. And unfortunately, that 17 has already had quite a night, even though we're only on lap 32.
That means that Maines gets an opportunity to maybe settle in and try to lead some laps here. It was the opening 13 or so led by pole sitter Briar LaPrade. Garrett Maines has led the last 18. Maines the defending FallBowl winner when we raced last in this FallBowl back on September 28th of last year, winning at the Irwindale Speedway in Irwindale, California. Maines is one of only 2 drivers to have multiple race wins in the history of the ERA Omega Cup. Both he and Vicente Salas are multi-time race winners, although to Chente's credit, he has won 3 of them. He's got a Summer Bowl at COTA, a FallBowl at Bristol, and our most recent race, the Summer Bowl at Charlotte, under his belt. So Garrett would, I'm sure, love to tie up with Vicente at the top of the board. Little fun rivalry between those 2 Coke level drivers, and just those 2 alone have eaten up a lot of the more than $55,000 that have been given away over the course of this series' history.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not too surprised that one of the road course rounds was won by Chente. He comes not just from the eNASCAR side of things, but also has raced in the professional rallycross side here on iRacing. So he's pretty good on quite a few different wide variety of disciplines. But right now, this is definitely its own beast for these drivers, and I think they're having a hard lesson here, Joey, on just how much patience is required by Martinsville.
Patience, indeed. We've already seen quite a few drivers just kind of blow the brake markers and unfortunately get into the back of other competitors. And to touch on the names you guys are mentioning, yeah, tons of pros here in the field. And I think that ERA, it's a place for you to come up and really prove yourself against some of these top names. And if not prove yourself, what does it take for you to get up there and race with these guys? Where do you need to improve?
And talk about getting up there, don't look now, but Malik Ray, who started this race in 31st position, is up to P11. He's your biggest mover. We'll continue to watch him march his way through the field. Pace car back off and in. Maines has been money so far on the inside. Can Clampett challenge, or is the 20 going to get the upper hand? It's another good start for Maines. He's clear for the lead, but to Clampett's advantage, the 44 car also clear for second. So once more, we fight for third. This time it is again Castro on the inside of Brian LaPrade.
Yeah, I think Clampett is plenty happy to let him go forward like this and just kind of move in behind. Look at the gap they're already pulling, though, just in one lap. That's pretty impressive. Castro and LaPrade are really holding each other up in this side-by-side racing, and I think Maines almost got moved up the road a little bit there for a moment.
It was incredibly close between Maines and Clampett for the lead, and crucially, LaPrade was able to get down into that lower lane, snuck right in front of Matt Busa in that blue number 97, but riding on board here, taking a look back at Logan Clampett because this unfortunately, another yellow flag.
Oh, and it is a huge mess this time on the front straightaway as it is turned into a parking lot. The 22 machine, that is Joseph Cogler, sideways in the middle of the racetrack. The 26 abraded black with a lot of damage as well. And let's follow the 22 and try to find the source of this one. 3 wide as they go off to turn number 3. And then I think the initial contact is going to happen as the car goes low. It's even further up the road and just nowhere to go. The 22 almost found a hole, but gets tagged at the last moment. And I think we'll find that it was the 045, the first car to go around. And it was Alex Jones, who we spoke with earlier tonight. That thing just snapped on him. So did the 28 behind, almost like there was oil on the track. I mean, both of those cars just took a sudden and quick hook off of 4.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out if maybe Braden Black had spun in response because he could see something happening, or if he just also goosed it at the wrong time. So here's Joseph's view of what's going on. He can see the smoke, but yeah, look at, woof. Wow, it happened so fast. He kind of got lucky, but kind of didn't. That's one of those moments where you just kind of close your eyes and pray and hope that whatever direction you've chosen is the right one.
Yeah, and, you know, analyzing that a little bit because I love bringing out my racing nerddom over here. It just looked like both the 045 and the car behind, they were way up wide exiting turn 4 up there. And when you try to get on the gas in the gray stuff with a bunch of marbles out there, it's just never a fun time.
Interesting to see, though, that we do have a decent amount of pit service happening under this yellow flag. So several cars down pit road. We still kind of wait and see if any of the top cars in the field are going to make that decision to dive down and away. But Brandon Barrier, Jason Maines, Joe Hobbs, Sid Waters, they're all going to come down pit road. Several drivers have made multiple trips to pit road so far. Still not enough for the race leaders to come in quite yet. But we are starting to see drivers pit. Most of those pitting for damage repairs. Yellow flag laps here at Martinsville only in the 45-second range. So if you've got a couple of minutes of damage, it's going to be tricky to get those repairs down on pit road and get back out on track. So once you got a damaged race car, that's going to be a dance all night long, trying to get the damage repaired while also not losing your lead lap status. And right there, you can see all those cars rushing off of pit road, trying to beat the pace car out.
Yeah, and it's one of those frustrating things that comes with short track racing is you can't really try and hope to stay on the lead lap if you have damage, just because it takes so long typically to try and get through. I think, yeah, it looks like they did allow Joe Hobbs past the pace car because he was kind of hesitating for a moment on whether or not he needed to hand that back. So watching them all kind of work their way around the track here, they'll get back to 2 wide, but they just have not had any respite here, Joey, of getting into this race. I feel like this is just going to be a negative feedback loop, and that everybody's going to get all the more anxious to get going.
Well, it'll be curious here. We got the lights out. You know, Garrett Maines is going to be up there restarting this one. I see Garrett Logan up there as well as Andre Castro as we got the pace car diving off of pit road. We're about to go green flag racing one more time.
And you can see Maines holding that higher line to try to get that diamond arc off of the corner, and it works to perfection. He is gone. Clampett may be under fire as Andre Casto tries to stay inside of the 44. He'll get a nose in the center, and an impressive drive off. Casto wants second. Clampett slides down to clear. Your top 5 single file.
As soon as he got the clear, I think he knew he had to cover that off. As we're, very single file for the top 6 or so. Looks like now Lim and Kirsanov are going to settle in. So we're starting to see some drivers figure, okay, let's get this thing rolling. Now let's check with Kwame Scott, who's got a front row seat to some more side-by-side action.
Yeah, that's the 18 of Cody Smith that he's sneaking underneath right now. And this is what we were talking about earlier. If we have the green flag runs, well, the lines can get very long on the inside, and as I say that, more problems on the racetrack. Looks like maybe Braden Black in the 26.
There was a couple of things that happened. Jusu Lim almost wrecked the race car. He's apologizing, but I think you're right. I don't think the incident was for him. It was for this. And you'll see the 26 machine of Braden Black behind a bit of a side-by-side battle as he heads off to 3, and as they come off the corner, and just underpower car lost it, snapped up the hill, and that's at least the 3rd incident tonight that the 045 of Alex Jones has gotten a part of. So trouble up the road for Lim, not the cause of the yellow, though. This was certainly it, and let's see Jones's perspective. Just nowhere to go, and that car snapped up in front of him.
Yeah, and unfortunately, because of that contact, I think Braden Black may have already eaten up one of his 3 repairs, because he's now out of the race. It's not our first. Austin Pitt looks to be the first one. And wow, yeah, just lots of stuff happening at the same time. And this is the other thing that's going to happen. It's not just the drivers getting used to one another, Joey. It's, well, the herd is thinned, if you will. The fewer drivers we get out there, the less likely the cautions are to start coming out.
Yeah, and the one thing I'm noticing between a lot of these incidents is they seem a little bit repetitive. And when that happens, it tells me that the drivers, they're still kind of coming to grips with their race cars underneath them, whether that means the brake markers going into the corner or when they can roll onto the throttle with the stability to drive off of the corner and not spin the cars. Unfortunately, it seems like they might be a little bit twitchy on exit, and everybody's trying to make up for it on entry, and that's never a good combination.
And I wonder, when we spoke to some of the drivers pre-race as well, they referenced maybe shifting happening in the corners as well. So you wonder if you're in dropping a gear on corner exit, if some of these guys are, up in the higher RPM category, and if that's adding to those issues. It's not going to be uniform across the field if everybody is shifting. But that has, I think, been a topic of conversation at a lot of racetracks with this next-gen car that we never previously even thought about.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because it definitely has changed the nature of oval racing in the U.S. in a big way, the way that now many different tracks kind of offer the opportunity to maybe think about shifting. Malik Ray right now in the number 7, currently sitting in 8th, and we've been talking about his progress. It's been really impressive. He is now 23 positions up from where he started, which I can't believe for the mere fact all of these issues. So for him to get to where he is a huge testament to his skill.
Not only Malik, but also Hayden Swank back here in the white and blue number 35, up 14 positions. So there's quite a few big movers. Michael Richardson also up 10, John Ward up plus 10. So despite the yellow flags that we have been seeing, there are some drivers that are keeping it clean and moving their way forward.
And we continue to move along now past 1/3 distance in this 2023 iteration of the ERA Omega Cup FallBowl. 51 laps down, 99 laps to go this time by. Look at the 20 up on the door of Clampett as he takes the green flag. This time, much better start for Clampett. He's home free in the battle for P2. They're side by side for 3rd and 5th.
Castro and LaPrade are getting really comfortable with this style of racing of one another. Been side by side a lot with all these restarts, and they always seem to wind up in these 3rd and 4th positions. This time again, Castro's going to get the better of him. that inside line just working out so much better here in these early stages before the outside can get any sort of rubber. Honestly, from what I'm seeing, Joey, I anticipate it's probably going to stay a bottom racetrack.
I think so, and I'm looking at that number 7. He was able to move up another spot on that restart, so move Malik Ray up into 7th as we ride on board the number 28 of Michael Richardson. And right there, even trying to keep it onto the bottom of the racetrack, you saw how twitchy the car was.
Not long ago, Richardson missed turn 3 significantly and was in the outside wall. He's done a good job of bouncing it back in this one to end up with a net gain of 9 spots up from where he started this race as we go up towards the front and on board with the challenger. Logan Clampett started exactly where he runs right now in 2nd and has yet to lead a lap tonight, but he is putting pressure on Garrett Maines as those top 2 have opened up a 7/10 of a second advantage over Andre Casto, who now has sole possession of 3rd.
We're finally getting some laps in here, but I find it interesting that we're seeing LaPrade drop back a little bit. He's all the way to 5th, so I wonder if he's maybe saving his stuff or if he actually has a problem. In the meantime, Maines, Clampett, Castro, they're all kind of starting to run away. So Joey, if we do get some green flag running, Castro just went wide, and we got a caution.
You had taken the words right out of my mouth with that number 19 car, but we'll see exactly what happened here with this yellow flag. I see the 92 still spun around here. This is John Ward. This is on the front straightaway. Not sure if this is what brought out the yellow flag or not, but we've seen a lot of cars really loose on exit, and with him stopped at start-finish, wouldn't be surprised if that's pretty much what we're going to see right here. Yep.
Yeah, all on his own. And then he got some help to finish it off, and round he goes.
So a tough break there for Ward. He did already have some existing front-end damage on the front of that McCauley Motorsports Podium 500 Chevy. So a car that is also not driving at tip-top shape and not at 100%. Again, the slightest of margins. And I think that kind of fits into with what we've been seeing, right? It hasn't been a bunch of big 12-car pileups and, people running over each other. It's just been a lot of that individual driver errors, and that kind of harpens back, Joe, to something you mentioned off at the top, that Martinsville is often compared to a road course in terms of driver versus track. Certainly the congestion and the close corners is a big factor. We can't discount that, but I think tonight is going to show you that Martinsville, the racetrack itself, deserves some respect as a tricky place to get around.
Oh, absolutely. It's a lot tougher than you think, because, most road people look at ovals and say, oh, yeah, well, that looks simple. That looks easy. I can tell you, no, it's not, because I went out and I always do my laps before races to try and get a feel for what the drivers are into. And I'd say I would probably be looking like a lot of these drivers that are spinning out, because it definitely was not easy, and especially overshooting the corner. You get so greedy wanting to go in there, and these are heavy cars, Joey, so it just wants to keep rolling, even when you just try and get that breakdown as hard as you can.
I think the reason why it's referred to similar to a road course is because it doesn't really have any banking. So yeah, you're using the feel of that brake pedal a lot more to kind of balance the car going into the corner. However, Joe, you are spot on and right. The biggest difference between a road course and even what we have here at Martinsville, you gotta be patient. These corners are incredibly long compared to something that you would usually see on a road course. So even though it's more road course-like, it is still very much an oval here at Martinsville.
And by oval standards as well, pretty tight corners. So fun to see the paradox and the comparisons between the two of them. Just want to update you on the entirety of the field. We mentioned 33 cars started this race. Austin Pitt has gone to the garage. His night is done, so he will be the first retiree of the race. Also, tough break for Braden Black. The 26 car also has gone to the garage. His night is done. So they will finish 33rd and 32nd, respectively. A couple of cars a lap down. Joe Hobbs wouldn't mind one additional yellow. He's 1 lap down in 29th, looking for a lucky dog spot. Sid Waters is 3 laps down in 30th, and Matt Johnson 5 laps down in 31st. The other 28 cars still on the lead lap and ready to go. And look at these leaders already. Clampett coming down from the outside to go on the door of Garrett Maines, and they have been rubbing into each other down the entirety of the back straightaway and all the way to turn 3. Now Maine's going to return the favor. He'll ride middle of the road, and he plays some games with Logan and Clampett, who could not guess the start, and the gamesmanship up front puts Maine's back to the race lead. Castro wants to try again on the inside of Clampett. They'll fight for second.
We're lucky that did not cause a wreck. There was such a stack up behind him. A couple cars nose to tail contact between them, but will get away. I guarantee you those two are cracking up in their cockpits, but we got another caution, Balmain and Hobbs this time.
It looks like the 83 of Jake Balmain, like you were saying here, problems coming out onto the back straightaway. See exactly what happened here, see if there's any contact or if this is just going to be another incident where he's loose up off of the corner. The 11 is right up on the bumper, and sure enough, there was definitely contact between Junsun Lim and the number 83 car.
A little bit of damage, and that one goes to the 92 of John Ward. We had just talked about his involvement, and with Garrett Maines up front, let's see the perspective from Jason Maines back in the field right in front of him. That car gets hooked around. Fortunately, there is an escape path for his number 25 machine to sneak on through, and he will continue to try to march back up through the field. Jason started 15th, dropped a lap down, and is now back to P24, trying to work his way back up and into contention in this race. And you know, Maines has been pretty dominant on the start so far tonight, but that was really the, we've seen some of the gamesmanship pushing up, going in the center of the corner, maybe a little bit early, Joe, but that was certainly the most gamesmanship by quite a margin that we've seen so far tonight, with, Garrett very aware that Logan's going to try to guesstimate when he goes. And I mean, that, you're right, that could have easily turned into a big pileup, but not only are those two going to, maybe have a little bit of fun with each other, and then Garrett's going to test Logan there, but then you got to remember, like, what that does to the cars on row 2 and row 3. There was a lot of contact inside of the top 10.
Yeah, so I don't know if they're going to try that again, but I don't think we're going to get lucky twice, if I'm honest. And the other thing that we haven't brought up that's kind of the elephant in the room when it comes to short tracks is the tempers. Who is going to lose their cool out here, especially with caution after caution? The more that we get, the more drivers are going to be just eager to get going. And back to that word we keep using, lose their patience and maybe make a foolish decision. Joe, you know how it is inside a race car. You always have to keep your cool.
I think eagerness, anxiousness, and ultimately probably here at the Paperclip, frustration comes to mind. We're definitely going to see it later. And you guys were talking about that restart. Why that's such a problem at the front of the field is it creates an accordion effect. When you think of an accordion, it stretches out and it condenses. Well, when you kind of have those box starts at the front, you have this major condensing happening right in the middle of the field. And unfortunately, with these cars, you can't see more than just one row in front of you.
A little bit of news as well as race control talking about some of the top runners in the field. There's, two different ways to restart here on the sim. There's the conventional iRacing way where the pace car goes down and it's fair game. And then there's the new restart zone procedure where you actually have to go in the Geico restart zone that's painted and indicated on the racetrack. That's not till well off of the exit at turn 4. And they have been going well before that all night long so far, but because that last one was pretty sloppy, I think admittedly so, race control talking to the drivers saying that if things like that continue, they may have to start to restrict and to put themselves into that restart zone box, which would make it a lot tougher for Garrett Maines to do that. Clear already on the exit of 4 as he leads to turn 1.
Yeah, he wasn't going to play any games this time. He was just going to get going. And Castro nearly washing up into the side of the Pratt. We got another yellow. We didn't even make half a lap this time. And I see Jerkovic slow. Not sure if it was with anybody else involved.
I think this was kind of into turn number 1, maybe going into turn number 2 here on the restart. So is a little bit further back in the field, and just unfortunate to see the number 12 car. They had contact there. That's Luis Vega. just got into the back bumper of the 42, and we've already seen how easy these cars are to spin around, even just the slightest contact.
Here's the onboard perspective as the contact's going to happen right there up the road, and Austin Jackson uses the no longer grass berm on the inside that's paved over to kind of shortcut his way through and be able to avoid further incident. Again, a very tame incident. Djurkovic never really went all the way around, but it did cause a pretty significant checkup, so enough for the yellow flag to come back out, as this yellow will bring us beyond the halfway point. Still no cars up front coming down pit road from your leaders. So they're all pretty lockstep, and admittedly at this point, maybe that decision holds throughout the rest of this race. Well, as we mentioned, over the course of this ERA Omega Cup Series, more than $55,000 has been handed out, and you can get on the action today. Just visit eragaming.gg/membership, and you can sign up today and join the eRacing Association. It is so much more than just these Omega Cup major events. There is tons of racing action against some of the very most talented drivers on the sim, and racing for some of the biggest payouts you'll find anywhere. Again, sign up now at eragaming.gg/membership. Is passing your race leaders there, as the aforementioned Joe Hobbs mentioned from a lap down, was maybe hoping for an extra yellow flag to get the lucky dog. He will get that. So P27 will rejoin the lead lap.
I want to throw a question back to Evan here, because you mentioned that we still haven't seen a lot of the leaders pit. We're on lap 73. I know they can go a lot longer. What is the fuel length? What is the limit of what they can do here? Think they can make all 150?
Well, I think the question is, how many laps have we done under green, right? I think when you run under yellow, you're only burning about half the amount of fuel, Joey, as what you would see under green. If there was a perfect world to pit, it'd be about now, right? Halfway, but I just don't think that these guys want to go back into the midfield there. And I think the question may even more so be the tires normally in a race like this as opposed to the fuel. And I would say that given the pace, I'm not giving up track position.
I wouldn't give up track position here at Martinsville. Not at all, especially with all of the messes that we've seen in the back. Keep yourself out of that. Keep yourself with that track position. And something like Malik Wright all the way up to the 6th place, I'm sure that he is plenty happy being up there rather than having to drive through this pack again.
We're lined up and ready to go at it again. There is one car who took fresh tires 57 laps ago. It's Alex Thurber in a P14. He's got about 20 lap better tires than everybody else ahead of him. We'll see if that's notable enough to do anything with. Pace car back off and in after this lap. 74 down, 76 to go. We are halfway home in the FallBowl at Martinsville.
There was a little bit of pushing going on this time with Maines and Clampett still trying to ease that number 44 up the road. So he's back to some of those tricks once again. And Castro versus LaPrade. Right now going to go to Castro. LaPrade, whoa! But there was a problem, I think, for Clampett off the corner.
I think he just had a big old wiggle coming up off of turn number 4. He was able to catch the car, thankfully, because if he had spun around in front of this entire field, it would have been pretty messy. But also, look at the number 97, Matt Busa, now underneath LaPrade for that 4th place position.
LaPrade continues to struggle after losing the top position, as he has been under fire ever since. Malik Ray continues his marvelous charge through the field, now plus 25 spots to P6, and he's got a front row seat to the battle in front of him. LaPrade on the outside, Busa on the bottom trying to make the pass. It's been maybe an uncharacteristically quiet night for Matt Busa, who started inside of the top 5, hoping to use some of these green flag laps to take advantage of them and get up into the conversation. But this battle between these two is allowing the top cars to pull away. Won't matter. Caution flag well behind the leaders.
I think it's Djurkovic again, who got help from Michael Richardson and sent him around in turn 1 and 2. So once again, drivers, even once we do get green flag racing, looking like they need to watch out a little bit on the way into the corners. Leave a little space to that car ahead. Can't tell if he just overshot it, Joey, or if he genuinely thought maybe a pass was on.
It's tough. I think it's an overshot corner. Watch the black number 28, and going into the corner here, Gonna dive down to the inside, but it's just way too much speed to hold that bottom lane. And once again, this is a very similar incident to what we've seen prior in the race. So I just think it's getting in a little bit too deep.
A big decision under the yellow flag. Logan Clampett has pitted. He will give up the number 2 position, and he is the only car in the top 20 to come down and pit. So we were just discussing if you wanted to pit, now would be the time to do it, but I was wary of the track position game. Well, Clampett comes in just past halfway. He will cycle out to 22nd on the racetrack, and he is going to have a healthy tire advantage. But will things stay clean enough, and will he have enough green flag laps to do something back there in the 20s?
Well, I don't think this is necessarily the worst idea. You mentioned it. He'll have much better tires. So, and we've seen that Malik Ray was able to do it on the same age tires as a lot of other drivers. So passing is possible. He came from way in the back and some of the most chaotic stuff that we've been seeing. Now things have thinned out, and it seems to be mostly single car incidents lately. I think that this could work out pretty well, but it's a bit of a toss-up. I think he's rolling the dice, honestly, Joey, because he knows he hasn't been able to beat Garrett on the restarts. So if that's not working, well, try something else, because why keep doing the same thing that's not getting you past him?
And crucially, what this tells me is that if the 44 came down pit road and filled up, that means everybody else has to as well. So everybody else will have to make that trip down to pit road. And when they do, the 44, guess what? They're not going to come to pit road. They will be promoted straight up to the lead. So I'm curious, is the 44 telling us, hey, nobody can make it on fuel, everybody else has to come? Or are other cars on the racetrack going to say, hey, we've got enough yellow flag, maybe we can stretch it the whole way?
And if Clampett is right here, then he has put himself in a great position, because any reactionary move from somebody else to then come down on a later yellow is going to put them behind Clampett, and it's going to give the 44 a big advantage. I still think if they needed the fuel, we would have seen a more uniform decision shy of the halfway point. I just seem to believe that with all the yellows we've been seeing, if the second half of this race has the same complexion of the first half, they can make it. But that's not to say that even if you can make it on fuel, the tires still aren't the better decision. Pace car off and in again, and Garrett Means has got a new partner on the front row as he's able to get ahead of Andre Castro. Castro clear for the number 2 spot. It's the highest the 34's been tonight. Already a spinner behind. It may have been Sid Waters in the 81 car. He was slow from 2 laps down, and maybe he and the 28 of Michael Richardson. I think you had both of them there, and we saw the 28 quickly on pit road. He went around first, and I know the Olympics are coming up soon, but how about a synchronized spin as they came off the corner? Waters got punted after the 28 spun in front of him.
I think the Russian judge is being a little stingy with the judgments there, but I will say that Kwame Scott also got turned around in a separate incident. So I think the yellow was thrown for this at the back, but Scott's probably happy that it was thrown when it was, because watch this. This was about to be a monstrous wreck, and I'm actually very impressed with how great the drivers dealt with this, because we could have seen just an incredible pileup prone across the track, and then gets hit, but everybody else kind of checks up in time that we didn't have multiple cars just coming to a complete halt.
I think I saw the 77 of Alex Thurber get involved, and this was the second wreck. Now watch, the 28 spins in front, coming to the green flag, and the 44 just gives a huge shove to that other car. And I know here at Martinsville, aerodynamics are not that important, but that 44 has got a smashed up front end now.
I know all these next-gen Cup cars look different, but with how flat that nose is on that Chevy, it's looking like one of the old Ford Fusions for Logan Clampett, as he's flattened the front end of that thing. And anytime I see a Cup car, I know times have changed throughout the years here on the service, and there's your good look at it. Anytime I see a flat front end on a Cup car, I'm always worried about engine temps. And yes, it's a night race, It's not that hot. We're not necessarily drafting, but anytime, I'm just always weary, and maybe that's something aside from the, if the damage to the race car affects the handling, that's one thing, but I'm just over the years a little bit nervous anytime I see front end damage, because you never know when one of those engines will go, and that's the exact reason why we kind of thought we weren't going to see those cars pit, right? Because it put you in the midfield and it put you in that situation, right? Logan Clampitt doesn't pit, that car's not damaged, it's running P2 right now, so he gets the benefit of the tires, but the negative is you got to deal with all that, and it's going to be every restart for Clampitt in the middle of the field, and that's the consequence. It's the risk he's willing to take.
Well, I've been told that if you've got damage on the right side of the car, you're racing hard enough, but if you got damage on the left side of the car, that means you're too slow. So what does it mean when you have damage on the front of the car, Joey?
Well, how I've always referred to it as, if you've got damage on the front of the car, you are usually the guilty party. If you got damage on the back of the car, usually you are not the guilty party. So it's kind of a tale depending on the situation, but are you the punter or the puntee?
Well, hopefully, no one's kicking any field goals with each other, and this race continues on. Like we mentioned, past the halfway point, and even with the yellows, this thing's going to start to ramp up quick. Only going to be 61 laps to go this time by the start-finish line. Garrett Maines back atop as he continues to dominate. Green flag in the air. Now here comes the challenge for second. Briar LaPrade was slipping back about 15-20 laps ago, as low as fifth at a moment. Now in a battle trying to get back to P2.
Got that inside line, and as we've seen, that tends to be the place you want to be. Although last time out, we had a driver fighting from around the outside and holding the station. So it isn't a death knell out here, but watch these two, because this is going to be interesting to see who can come out ahead. They look pretty evenly matched here, Castro and LaPrade.
Yeah, drag racing down the back straightaway, and I think that the 34 is really kind of racing for his life right now, maybe even hoping for another yellow flag as we get a big wiggle out of LaPrade on the low lane. But I tell you what, if the 19 is able to clear the 34, look at how many cars are lined up behind.
Notably, Malik Ray, he's taken an extra step. He's up to P4 now, plus 27 positions from where he started. Boos is behind him in fifth. We haven't given a lot of credit either to the cars right behind them. Chase Pearson sixth, Cody Smith in seventh. They are very much keeping pace with all of the heavy hitters that have dominated the top five of this race. They have done everything well to stay clean and maintain pace. So impressive stuff from Pierce and Smith. You got Kirsadov and Rashcock and Swank and others who have been up inside of the top 10 all night, but haven't really had an opportunity to be highlighted quite yet, just based on the pace of this race. So on the outside there at turn number 2, Busa unable to make the pass of Malik Ray. He'll tuck in line and settle for fifth. And for a brief moment, everybody inside of the top 10 is single filed out, but look at the lead. The domains has opened up. It's more than a second as it went off the turn 1, one of the biggest leads we've seen so far tonight.
Evan was talking about the tires a little bit earlier, and I'm wondering if Castro's starting to feel it, since he's one of those that hasn't pitted yet. He had a big bobble off of one of the corners, and I think that's what's cost him, is LaPrade's been able to finish it up now. Watch out for Malik Ray. I wonder how much of his stuff he used on that charge through. Does he still have good tires? And if he does, I think he's a serious threat, Joey.
Speaking of used up stuff, if you're talking about Garrett Maines, how much stuff do you want to use up on these restarts? I expect we are going to have another yellow flag eventually. So really, how much do you want to burn up now versus saving it for a little bit later as we ride on board the number 12 Luis Vega? If you noticed, that black and green car all the way up into 11th of Logan Clampitt now.
And Logan Clampitt is leading the charge. Remember, he only pitted 17 laps ago, so he has got better tires on track than anybody else. Jerkovic, Ramon, some other drivers throughout the field. Hobbs also pitted on the same time as him, but he is very much the flag carrier for that strategy call. He just made a pass not too long ago on Junsa Lim, who pitted about 40 laps ago, so had better tires than most cars, but not better than the 44. And I think a lot of this strategy for Clampitt is dependent on getting green flag laps, right? He's not going to be making passes if it's start, stop, and I think that's where some of my skepticism came in. But on one of the longer green flag runs we've seen tonight, it's given the 44 opportunities to get cooking.
Absolutely. It's working out in his favor. I mean, he's already up to 10th. We were talking about Ray and how good he is. Well, he's at 5th, so he's not that far ahead. He's going to try to go the long way around. Has to give up on it, but he'll still get a chance here. 84.03 wide. This is not good. This is not good. I think they're going to make out with it, but only because the 84 of Kursanov gave way.
Yeah, and I think the 44 on that fresh tire was able to really hold it on the bottom side of the racetrack, and he's cleared that group, so now he's got 2.5 seconds of clear racetrack to go hunt down this top 7, and Garrett Maines, that gap to the number 19 of LaPrade, it's slowly starting to come back.
It's starting to get reeled back in. Last time at the stripe, back down to under a half second. Maines put down a 19.531. It was a 5.58 for LaPrade, so pretty even the last time through, but Maines lost something somewhere to allow that gap to close back in, and I think it was just a really poor lap number 100 that allowed the gap to close. Some lap traffic will yield to your race leaders. You can see that is slow on the inside. Joe Hobbs allowing your top 4 to get on by, and again, Maines has been so concerned with the restart jump because that's kind of been the key to success tonight. Hasn't really had to take care of the tires much at all. So not that it has been out of sight, out of mind, but maybe kind of flipping a switch and saying, maybe I don't need this second advantage. I got to manage my gaps a little bit better as you go on board with Chase Pierce there in the number 6 spot, still holding steady from where he started, trying to catch up to Malik Ray, who passed him a few laps ago.
Yeah, Malik had a big moment trying to lap Hobbs. He did not anticipate him being as slow as he was off the corner and nearly lost it as he tried to avoid him. Thankfully, obviously he didn't because he's still there. Scott, though, side by side, and that's with Kursanov, who I mentioned before. I think he is struggling. We've seen him up into the gray a lot.
Yeah, the 84, you're right, has been going up the racetrack, and unfortunately there's not a lot of grip up in the marbles and in the gray stuff. Something I'm really noticing, though, if you look at the brake rotors on these cars, they're glowing quite a bit. One, because it's nighttime here at Martinsville, but, oh, there's a big shove to the number 12. Kwame Scott trying to take away that 12th place position. This is a battle here, Evan.
Kwame Scott in the 37 going to get on by Luis Vega, make the pass for 12th. So Vega slides back into the number 13 spot, and directly behind them, it's a ongoing battle as the challenge is going to come. Oh, and a big bobble and a big save there. Nearly a wreck off of the corner there. It's a good save by Kursanov, but how much worse is this going to get for him? Continues to struggle. Now the 24 car of Francisco Villarreal underneath trying to challenge. 24 is going to have to balk, though. A slow lap car takes away the inside.
Yeah, this is getting into what I call the conveyor belt. The lap traffic is just constant. There's cars all around you. You can't escape it. So you got to keep your wits about you. It's a different style of racing of what we had before with that stop-start. Instead, you kind of don't get a breather. You don't have that sort of jerky flow that we had before. And instead, it's just almost more like a chaos.
Riding on board June Salim there as we jump back up to LaPrade here in the 2nd place. I was mentioning those brake rotors before I tossed it back to you guys, but you're going to see those rear rotors glow a lot more here at Martinsville. These drivers have the rear brake bias cranked in the car, and what that does is it allows them to help turn it, kind of going in on entry. Think of it like an e-brake. You're pulling the e-brake to help rotate the car. Well, some of these cars glow in those rear brake rotors a lot more than others. Specifically, this 44 tells me he really wants to turn in this car.
And speaking of the 44, Clampett going to make another move, this time under the 18 at Cody Smith. He is through and clear in the battle for P7. The challenge for Clampett here is not the fresher tires, and the green flag run has helped him immensely. It's just been the time needed to make these passes. Clampett has gone up from 11th to 7th. That's a gain. But when he was in 11th, he was only 4 seconds behind the race leader. Now in P7, more than 5. So it's taking time for him to make those passes. That's going to be the challenge. You can see Garrett Maines maybe a little bit frustrated with that corner. A bit of a shake of the head there as LaPrade is now steadily holding the gap between P1 and 2 under a half second. But if I'm Brian LaPrat, I might be more worried about playing defense and offense right now because Andre Castro has closed right back in, and the 34 looks like he wants to put the pressure on and take P2 away.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. LaPrat is not nearly close enough to try and get anything on mains right now. Castro is a threat. If there's a bad exit off of a corner for the 19, he'll open the door for Andre, and you can bet that he's going to try and stick his nose in if he sees that just whiff of a chance.
As we get further into this green flag run, they've already been coming up on the lap traffic, but usually it's the cars that are a little bit slower. As we continue and further into this green flag, we're going to be approaching cars that are more battling side by side. The leaders are going to have to deal with it all.
There's a perspective on board with the 21 of Jason Raytrock, and car going to lose a lot of speed that time off of the corner there. Near accident. He's going to be all right. Continues on as it was a challenge, I believe, on the outside for maybe Balmain or Trevelyan, who's had a bit of a rough night as well, running one lap down in the number 23 spot. By far and away the longest green flag run of the night, and right on cue as always, caution. 2 cars around on the front straightaway. Kwame Scott will right the ship. The other driver involved is the 99 machine, I think. Might be Kwame Scott. One of the drivers involved is more drivers got picked up, but we'll take a second look at what happened to the 99.
That's the 33 of Lipinski. He'll get shoved to the outside, and I wonder if that unsettles Scott here, because you can see, again, the car snaps so quick. I think him cranking the wheel down, trying to get squared off on the corner maybe has done it. Let's watch from on board. Yeah. Oof. And Raychok really thanking his lucky stars there that he was able to sneak through that one. And this is the problem with those old tires is the more you try and put steering into the wheel and try to get the throttle down this late in the race, the more difficult it's going to be. And I think that one took Kwame out of the race. It looks like he's retired here, Joey.
Well, and look at this. We have the strategy call, everybody down pit road. And I shouldn't say everybody, but the majority of our leaders took this opportunity, come down, put some gas in it, put some brand new tires on it. But I noticed the number 7, Malik Ray, he was actually falling off on pace that last green flag run. I wonder, was he in fuel safe mode?
It wouldn't be a race if Malik Ray didn't stay out and try to pull a strategy. Ray, Clampett, Swank stay out. Maids and company get fresh tires. We'll take a quick opportunity to step aside when we come back inside of the final 30 laps of this Omega Cup Fall Bowl at Martinsville.
Do you struggle finding someone to race with, someone to compete with, or flat out, someone just to give the Gap sauce? Well, you should check out the Gap'em app. Gap'em is the only app that will allow you to race people locally, share videos, and attend events. And after you race, you can actually take your racing video and post it in the Gap'em Postum section so the whole world can see. And even if you're not a racer, you can always head to our Gap'em app crew mode section where you and some friends can continue to meet up, go to car meets, go to car events, car shows, anything that has nothing to do with going to the racetrack. Gap'em is a one-stop shop for the car world. Looks like I just got a match on the Gap'em app. Time to serve someone some Gap'em beans. Ready, set, Gap'em.
It's a whole new race here at Martinsville. Malik Ray and Hayden Swank to stay out on 122 lap old tires. Logan Clampett's got 40 lap old ones. He's on the outside of row one. Green flag back in the air, and it's a good jump for the 7 car with 27 laps to go in this race. But all eyes on the 4 tires, and look out, a spinner. Cody Smith around in front of the field. And the calamity has finally reached the top runners as that all started right around the battle for P5 as cars on fresh tires tried to go 3 wide around some of the cars who stayed out.
And unfortunately for a bunch of the cars in there, Sid Waters had the ARCA brake moment of coming in last and just kind of plowed into it. Might have been pretty unsighted with so many cars stopped up in front. But yeah, watch. The 97 managed to take off. Behind them is where everybody just kind of came into a little bit of a clump, and it blocked almost the whole track.
Yeah, you watch the 18 here as well as the 97. The 18 kind of spins right back down and then just ends up getting collected. And actually, if we can ride on board the 34 of Andre Castro, he was all the way down underneath this thing. I'm not sure if he actually got into him at all, but that's one of our front runners. He was able to sneak through. Yeah, you see him just right underneath all of this.
And Castro's going to give you a good perspective of how bad a race start this was for Garrett Maines in the 20. That's the car up in front of Busa, so the next car up in line, not the blue Logitech Chevy, but the next one. Maines has got fresh tires. He needs to get a big gain here, but he washes up. There's contact there, and then Castro ahead of Maines, who's right there on his outside at the moment of yellow. So Garrett Maines goes from being the first car in line on 4 fresh tires in P4. He now finds himself down in P6, lost 2 positions, and most importantly, no longer is the first car in fresh tires. Both Andre Castro and Briar LaPrade going to be ahead of him. Is this how the night falls apart for Maines after leading 105? Because he's got work to do.
Yeah, and that is really difficult now because we're down to 24 laps to go, and track position is probably going to be king, except for, well, the question mark of Ray and Swank. Now, Clampett, of course, with a little bit older tires, but it seems like he's been holding his own. If we keep getting these quick cautions, then it's going to be tough to try and make up those spots, especially considering Maines is going to be critted up on the outside again.
I think my biggest question mark going here to this restart is the number 19, LaPrade. So he's starting in 3rd place. You were mentioning the new tires. He is the furthest forward on the freshest stuff. And being in that 3rd place position, he is going to be restarting on the inside lane right behind the leader. Malik Ray is on the oldest of the tires. Can LaPrade essentially keep the 44 in that outside lane? Can the 19 take advantage?
Malik Ray, of course, on the bottom has the oldest of tires out of anybody. Remember, Clampett was the only car to kind of go solo of those inside of the top 10. Pitted a while ago, was trying to drive through the field. He kind of had to stay out here because if he had pitted with everybody else, it would have kind of been admitting defeat and dropping himself back significantly. So 120 laps on the front row, 50 laps on the front row, and brand new ones behind. Green flag back in the air. It's a good start for Ray, and an even better start for Malik Ray as he's well clear for the lead. Battle for second in favor of LaPrade at the moment of yellow. It'll be a critical pickup for the 19 car as Sid Waters went around and I believe collected Joe Hobbs. We'll take a second look.
This one won't go down very well with the rest of the crew because these were 2 cars that were laps down, multiple laps down, and wasn't really an incident where they were racing each other. They just kind of goosed it coming around the corner and did not have enough grip for them. Everybody else was taking off. They were trying to follow suit. Watch the 92 here. Or excuse me, no, it wasn't the 92. It was the 81, rather. And the 27, I think, maybe trying to avoid a little bit and just kind of wound up boxed in. I wonder if Sid has called it a night there. Yeah, I think he is done.
If you watch, as soon as he gets on the gas, He gets the wheel spin, and you're right, the 27 tried to avoid kind of a little bit of a synchronous spin there, but we've seen it over and over and over. When you are up outside of the racing line on that gray stuff in the marbles, it doesn't matter what part of the corner you're in. If you are too aggressive with the throttle, you will get wheel spin and it will snap out on you.
And maybe this is a situation where after just coming off of the longest green flag run of the night, Malik Ray would really benefit from a lot of these quick yellows like earlier, right? I mean, I think head to head, his tires don't match up to the cars around him. That is an understatement. He has 119 lap older tires than Briar LaPrade, who's going to be starting to his outside. The key there, though, is if we get these really quick yellows like we saw early in this race, then the Seven's just got to kind of, manipulate some restarts and get those advantages. And if he can jump out to an advantage, catch a yellow, and kind of run out the clock that way, I think that's Malik Ray's real only strategy here to try to make those old tires work and maybe pull this thing off.
The problem is we also have the green-white checkers to come later, so he can try and run it out, but it's not going to be in 18 laps unless he gets really lucky and the yellow's supposed to come on one to go. So he's going to have some extra work to do there at the very end. That also brings back into question of, well, does he have enough fuel to get there in the first place? He seems to be confident because he hasn't made any motions to needing to come into pit lane. But I think this is going to be a pretty tough one for him because any long stint of green that we get, he's going to be super vulnerable.
And Evan, I definitely have to agree with you. I think that the number 7, all he's got to do is control the restarts, which you can do here in iRacing, but got to remember, LaPrade, it's pretty much sticker tires. So if you're looking for anybody to try to challenge around the outside, LaPrade has the speed, he's got the tires, he's got the ability to do it. The 44 of Logan Clampett that's going to be starting right behind the number 7, we've been talking about how fast he is, but trust me, I'd be more worried about the fresh tires on the outside.
And the big challenge for Clampett is Clampett could have implemented the same strategy, right? Well, I've got better tires than Malik. I got to pass him and keep the fresh tires behind me. The fact that Briar's been able to break ahead of the 44 on the advantage is going to make it awfully difficult for the 44 to get back into that conversation. Look at Malik Ray pushing the 19 all the way up and into the dark stuff, and we are back underway. 15 laps to go at Martinsville.
Brad wasn't able to stay beside him here, but let's see if he can get a leg underneath. That's going to be critical. The corner exits here. If he could just get a good run, if he gets inside, it's game over.
Oh, there's a big old shove, Martinsville style, to the number 7. Oh, and then a big wiggle off of the corner for LaPrade. You can just tell those tires, they have so much more rolling grip as we've got another yellow, and he turns the leader after the yellow flag.
Drama in the battle for the lead. We had seen LaPrade putting it to the bumper of Malik Ray, and he certainly did so in the center of 1 and 2. There may have been an opportunity for the 7 car to save it, but then he just kept getting hit from behind, right? I mean, Castro and Clampett, they all kind of pushed through the 19, but it was the 19 who started it. Yellow is out at this moment here. No, the 7 to not get spun around after everybody else piled into it, and the tough break there is Malik Ray was in the lead at the moment of the caution flag, but because of the additional contact, I think he's going to be scored in P4.
I think, and it's hard to tell if that's what actually brought out the yellow or if it was Luis Vega in the 12, because he spins on front stretch, and this is right about the time that the yellow flies. I would suspect that they threw the yellow for that, because if not, that was almost a little bit premature that they tossed the yellow out for that action up at the front.
It was a bang incident for sure. I definitely think you're right, Joe. They threw the yellow for the incident on the front straight, and it just so happened that things were getting really spicy up front. I mentioned the 19 on those fresh tires. Well, he just was able to carry so much more rolling speed through the middle of the corner. We saw him give the number 7 a couple shots the lap or 2 prior, and eventually just got into him a little too hard.
So maybe a bit of drama around that one, but back to the race lead is the driver who started this race on pole, guys, about 130 some odd laps ago, as Brian LaPrade is back in control, and we've got all these converging strategies, Joe, now meeting up. But the fact that LaPrade, one way or another, with that controversial incident, gets back out into the clean air means it's going to be awfully tricky for the rest of the cars on the same tires as him to get past the Clampetts and others to get to him. I think LaPrade's in a really good spot, but to your point, we're not just racing to 150. I've got a feeling that we're going to be using up a healthy number of those 3 green-white checkered attempts, which kind of changes what that benchmark is.
I mean, speaking of using things up, I think we're going to be using up some bumpers if LaPrade's move is anything to go by. I don't think that was just him not expecting Malik to break or go. I think he was trying to move him up the track. So that, to me, signals that there's going to be some drivers that are willing to take out the chrome horn.
Got to remember, $4,000 on the line if you claim that checkered flag tonight. So I think it's not just a case of frustration, but you got to remember what's hanging at the checkered flag.
There is a lot on the line, more than $5,000 up for grabs if you finish in the top 5. Green flag back in the air. It's a good jump for LaPrade, and following him through to second is Clampett. So at the disadvantage, Clampett gets to P2. The 84 car going to get pushed out 3 wide as Kirsanov will lose some spots. The battle we look at is for third, Malik Ray on the inside of Castro.
Impressively, Malik had a pretty good restart, and he's trying to hang on. He just does not have the rubber left, although he's going to chuck it into the corner and still stay alongside Castro. I don't know how, Joey. Surely those tires have got to be shot.
It's just the advantage of the bottom groove here at Martinsville, plus the rubbered up line. It can be so difficult to pass around the outside, but oh, there you see a big-time wiggle out of Malik.
Yeah, on board with Maines there. He's having a lot of trouble. I think he's reaping what he sowed, unfortunately. And Maines is going to make it look easy, but now Maines is getting into the back of Castro. He might shove him up the road. He does.
Not only 1 spot, but 2, as Maines will move the 34. Malik Ray going to use it to get under the 34. There's the payback shot, but is that only going to hurt himself? Castro, frustrated, throws a shot, but in anger, takes himself out of the money. Now Ray slides up. He'll door slam the 20 car, and it's a whole world of hurt for Garrett Maines, who will drop to P6.
This has gotten really spicy here, Joey.
Yeah, it's just things are getting really hot. The tempers are starting to boil over here, and I can't say I'm surprised. Check it out, the lap count. 4 laps to go.
Running out of time, you look off for the back of race leader Brian LaPrade. Logan to Clampett. Can he do it with 40 lap older tires? Plenty to fight for. Top 5 paying out cash. Castro in 5th at the moment, but he wants more on the bumper of Malik Ray.
Yeah, but I don't think they're close enough to really get the big cash here. They're just fighting for scraps, and Malik's going to get turned. He catches it. No yellow. Amazing stuff. And this is all allowing the top 2 to just scamper away.
Yeah, that's really going to take... Oh, and now we've got a yellow flag on the racetrack before any white flags are displayed. That means we're going to get overtime. Unfortunately, Kirsanov, as well as another car caught up. I believe that's exiting turn number 2 there.
Austin Jackson, the one who was the wrong way around, and well, we saw a lot of contact up front. That's going to be a theme here. The 84 right through the left rear of the 16 car, spun him around, and then the 84 couldn't avoid it and kind of got pinched into the outside wall by the 16, and then there was a bit of a ridiculously late hit from the 33 car who must have fell asleep at the wheel to join that accident about 10 seconds late to be the 3rd man in. And I'm surprised that that wasn't the result of some of the beating and banging to be outside of the top 5 guys. You can't tell me that you take a Coke Series driver and somebody else, and it's not that important. $5,000 on the line. It means that you can see how nasty and physical it was getting inside of the top 5. And with this yellow coming out on the brink of the 1 to go, we will head into overtime. There's the late hit from the 33 car. So we will go to our first of 3 attempts at a green-white checker finish.
As for those not familiar, what this means is essentially now they'll get the green flag in a little bit here. When they do, they have 1 lap to try and get to the white flag. If they get to that white flag without a yellow coming out, it'll be official. and they'll be able to race to the line no matter what happens from there. But if the yellow comes out before that, go back to 2 more attempts after this to try and do the same thing over again. So this could happen more times, or the race could be over. It all depends, Joey, and if they can just do 1 lap under green.
I kind of am curious. There's not as many cars on the lead lap. It looks like about 18 cars on the lead lap. So yeah, you would lose quite a bit of track position if you were in, let's say, the number 7 or even the number 35 spot, where you've got 151 laps on your tires. But we talked about the strategy call. You can probably make it without filling up the full tank of fuel, but what about these extra laps, this bonus green-white checker time? Are those 2 cars that haven't hit it yet going to have enough fumes?
They're going to have to go further than they were hoping. And again, a lot to be decided inside of the top 5. $100 to the driver who finishes in 5th, $150 to the driver who finishes 4th, $250 for 3rd, $500 for 2nd, right? That all sounds pretty good. $4,000 to the driver who wins this race. It is not even a question which spot you want to finish in. It is a massive difference between being the race winner and walking away with a couple G's, or, you know, walking away with a decent consolation for your effort. Only one driver going to be able to be victorious, and Briar LaPrade in a position looking to get his first win here in the ERA Omega Cup. Lights out on top of the pace car for attempt number 1 of 3 at a green-white checker overtime restart. They need to get all the way around to the white flag for this race to be official. LaPrade clamp it off of 4, green flag in the air.
Looks like it's a pretty good start for LaPrade, unless something dramatic happens to him. This is going to be his to lose here.
Now we got problems on the front straightaway, but we're staying green flag on the racetrack. That's exactly what LaPrade wants to see as he rounds turn 4 to look at the white.
Busa gets pushed out wide. He'll slide to 4th. The 20 car jumps up to 3rd. White flag in the air, though. This race is official for Briar LaPrade. Clamp it closes. He's on the bumper. He'll look to the inside, side by side for the race lead at Martinsville. Final corner. LaPrade gonna try to get the pedal to it. They touch, but it's not enough. And Briar LaPrade, the FallBowl champion.
Wow, that was tight at the end, and credit to Logan. I was afraid maybe he was going to try and nudge him out of the way, but he played more than fair there and made sure that he did not wash up into him. So LaPrade earned this one. Clamp it deserves a hearty shake or hearty pat on the back. Maybe Briar should go and treat him to some dinner for that move.
This is my favorite part of the checkered flag. LaPrade burning it down on the front straightaway.
A hard-fought but a fair-fought battle between LaPrade and Clampett. They touched. Clampett got underneath him. LaPrade gave him the space necessary. And even with the bonus touch off of turn number 4, Clampett could have cleaned him out for $4,000, raced him fair, and Briar LaPrade earned this one. Started on pole earlier in the night, comes all the way back to win the Omega Cup FallBowl, his first win in the eRacing Association Omega Cup. The celebration will continue at Martinsville. We'll take a quick opportunity to step aside. When we come back, we'll talk with your race winner. You're watching the ERA on Podium.
you struggle finding someone to race with, someone to compete with, or flat out someone just to give the Gap sauce, well, you should check out the Gapum app. Gapum is the only app that will allow you to race people locally, share videos, and attend events. And after you race, you can actually take your racing video and post it in the Gapum postum section so the whole world can see. And even if you're not a racer, you can always head to our Gapum app crew mode section where you and some friends can continue to meet up, go to car meets, go to car events, car shows, anything that has nothing to do with going to the racetrack. Gapum is a one-stop shop for the car world. Looks like I just got a match on the Gapum app. Time to serve someone some Gapple beans. Ready, set, Gapum.
Back live from iRacing's virtual Martinsville Speedway as we take a look at tonight's full race results brought to you by the ERA. It is race win for Briar LaPrade, his first in the Omega Cup ahead of Logan Clampett in second. Garrett Maines comes home in third. Andre Castro finishes in fourth. And Matt Busa hangs on for a fifth. They are all in the money, and we'll talk with a couple of them in just a moment. Behind them, it's Jason Raycock in the number 6 spot with Malik Ray in 7th. Junsun Lim in P8 with Aaron Ramon in 9th. And Nick Jerkovich rounds out your top 10.
Francisco Villarreal was 11th, and then both of our other drivers we interviewed at the start, Alex Jones, Brandon Barrier, 12th and 13th, right next to one another. Hayden Swank was P14, and Luis Vega 15th. Travis Trevelyan's last one on the lead lap in 16th. Joe Hobbs did get to the finish in 17th. Won't get him any money, but he should be proud considering all the action that he had to go through. Chase Pierce was 18th, Austin Jackson 19th, and then Jason Maines, last one lap down in 20th.
And then in 21st position, we do have John Ward. The first car 2 laps down. One more car did take the checkered flag. That was Jake Balmain. The rest of these cars, unfortunately, did not finish. That includes Kirstenoff here in 23rd. Cody Smith, Dan Lipinski, Sid Waters, unfortunately, had a few incidents out there. Kwame Scott in 27th, Alex Thurber 28th. Michael Richardson and Joseph Kogler are going to be rounding out the top 30.
And then a couple of cars, again, who had a bit of a rough night at the end of it all. Matt Johnson, Braden Black, and Austin Pitt unable to make it the scheduled distance. And as a look top to bottom at your full race results here tonight from Martinsville. But we go all the way to the top with your Fall Bowl champion. Briar LaPrade gets his first win in the ERA Omega Cup. Briar, congratulations. Tell us about that battle at the very end. Clamp it to the inside in the final corner, and you had enough to hold him off.
Yeah, first of all, I just want to apologize to Malik. I got into him there. Yellow came out. I'm surprised he lost that many spots. I could have swore the yellow came out like as he was leading, but it threw him back to 4th. So I feel really bad about that. So sorry to Malik. And yeah, shout out to Clamp for not destroying me. Usually at Martinsville, it's chaos coming to the checker flag, especially for $4,000. That's a lot. So mad respect to Clamp it. For not, just destroying me there. He's always been a great guy, great competitor in eNASCAR. So super happy that he was the one that was racing me there at the end because I threw big time. They might as well throw me in the MLB because I could throw, that's for sure. But we somehow just barely held on there. So super happy about that. Super happy to take Ledford Billiard Supply and Rayco Performance to victory lane there. Big event here. So happy to get it done. I don't win many of these big events, so it's definitely nice to finally take home one of these.
And start catching up to the guys like Maines and Salas who have wrapped up a couple of these big money races. But let's talk context in this one, right? You start on pole up front early, lead a couple of laps, and then fall back a tad. It's Logan who kind of pits on his own. He's trying to dig through the field. Then we get the longest green flag run of the night. So everybody else decides to pit. Malik stays out. Clamps out there now on older tires. And you've got the fresh ones all of a sudden. So talk us through that decision to maybe not pit when Clamp did and then pit later and kind of how all that played out in the complexion of this race.
Yeah, I think it was just kind of too early when Clamp pitted. I was definitely on the fence. I was thinking about it when he pitted, but it just didn't work out just for him. Obviously, it could have worked out. But if we,
just kept. If we didn't have that long green flag run there, I think it might have worked out for Clamp. But just I don't know. It's Martinsville. You got to get lucky with strategy here, and that's what I got lucky with. Is Maines was the first one on 2 fresh tires. I took 2 as well. He started on the outside and ended up going to the 3rd lane or something in turn 1. So just having that luck and finally having something fall my way was super nice. And just being settled in 3rd there on those last couple of restarts was nice. And then, like I said, accidentally just got into Malik. I feel super bad about that. That's not how I race. So hopefully he understands and, all that good stuff. And I try to race everyone clean on here, but sometimes that just doesn't happen. And it was just a complete accident. But, just super happy that we won. Everything fell into my hands for once. That rarely happens on here. But like I said, just super happy to finally bring up one of these big event wins.
And you mentioned it already, but a $4,000 payday ain't bad either. I know you're no stranger to some of these big events on the sim, but how does this stack up? It's a pretty good payout for one night's work.
Yeah, for sure. I try and do all the big events like the Firecracker or Car Anomaly. Any big event I try to get into, and sometimes they're tough to make. Like I didn't make the Firecracker this year, so to finally take part in a big event like this and just win it was awesome. So just looking forward to doing some more of these, and hopefully the luck keeps going my way. And obviously we're trying to make our way back into the NASCAR Coca-Cola series. So hopefully the Contender series goes good this winter. Looking forward to that. Hopefully we have a good start to that and close it out pretty well. Looking forward to just racing that. The Xfinity cars are fun, and it's going to be fun with the new damage model for sure. So just looking forward to that. And, we're trying to make our way back to the top with Ledford Billiard Supply and Ryko. So hopefully that happens. And just got to have momentum go our way.
Hoping to see you on some Tuesday nights upcoming, Briar. But until then, congrats on this win. We'll catch you next time.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
To race the winner tonight here from the Martinsville Speedway, Briar LaPrade takes home the win and the $4,000 check. We'll continue on down with some of your other top finishers. Garrett Maines leads the most laps tonight with 105. It's good enough for P3 in this race. Joe, you're with him.
Indeed, Garrett. I'm sure there's a bit of frustrations knowing you led so much of it and you didn't come away with the ultimate win. But how do you feel about how it all went in general?
Yeah, it's definitely, frustrating. I felt like we did everything we needed to there to be, in contention to win this race. And I decided not to take enough fuel there I didn't fill it all the way up, on that pit stop, because I figured Briar would also short fuel to get out ahead of me, and he would have definitely beat me off pit road had I not done that. But 3rd place completely misses the bottom, pushes me up the track, cost me basically every meaningful spot, and I had to fight back to get into a position which I was actually in. I was up to 3rd, and then had that caution come out, I would have had a shot at it. But then I'm getting involved in other people's drama. I'm getting pushed into people, and then the person that I'm hitting is retaliating to me. And I mean, zero respect, just ridiculous driving. So it's upsetting. I mean, I tried to just work my way back up to the front, but it was so hard. The aggression was on 10 there, and there wasn't a whole lot I could do to really, avoid the mess. But I'll take a P3. Mad respect to Busa. He raced me clean, and I mean, we had a good brawl there for the finish. I think he saw his opportunity in 1 and 2, and he had to check up just a little bit to try to time his run off. And by that time, I was able to get to him and get by him. But unlike some of the others, he didn't just go blast me out of the way in the next corner. So that was cool. It was nice to have a respectful finish there. And congrats to Briar. I mean, if there's anybody that deserved it in that race, Clampett and Briar getting a throwdown at the end of the race, they were there the entire time. So I'm glad that, it wasn't just a complete lottery. I felt like, it was well-deserved for them as well.
Well, talk about in the middle of the race, you and Logan looked like you were playing some games there on some of those restarts. Are you guys having a good time out there?
Oh, yeah. I mean, Briar kind of set the precedent at the beginning of the race. He was pushing us up the track. So I was like, well, I'm going to do the same thing. If that's how we're going to do it, I don't see why not. It gives the leader an advantage. And I felt like there was so many restarts where I was able to get out far enough that I just saved my tires and let everybody come back to me. But there was a point in which I was kind of worried, are we even going to pit? How's the strategy going to work out? And I think it was working out for us until I think it was the last wreck that Kwame was involved in. That was kind of the one that I had to pit. I had no choice. At least I didn't feel like I had a choice. Like the winning strat was obviously, to pit. It became a toss up, and it was fun racing with Clampett because he was all over me. Like he was matching me every lap, but I just had to manage it. I couldn't make a mistake, so I just, I rode a pace I felt comfortable with, and pretty much just waited on the caution because he had a few shots of me. He could try to get to my bumper. He actually almost moved me out of the way the one time. He was real close, but I was able to hold the car low enough. He ended up hitting the curb, and I got away with it. But it was fun. Overall, I enjoyed the race. Just frustrating it didn't work out for me at the end.
Well, speaking of the ending, was there any part of your mind that was watching with how aggressive everybody was racing, thinking, oh, if those two take it out, I get to take this all home?
Oh, I was honestly really hoping that, Breyer got clear of Clampett going into 3. I was honestly hoping that happened, because if it did, we've all seen in, the real life cup race what happens when you clear going into 3. Joey Logano took no prisoners. I was kind of waiting to see if that would happen, but I honestly, like I said, mad respect to them. Everybody in the top 4 there at the end raced really clean. I think actually, heck, top 5, is really respectful coming to the finish, and nobody saw red and just dove it in there and said, I'll take the $4,000. So, I mean, Clampett had every opportunity to use Breyer up, and he chose to race him clean. So, I honestly, I was hoping I would have an opportunity there, but I mean, it finished the right way.
Well, that sounds fair enough to me as well. Again, congratulations, at least on a podium, a little bit of cash in your pocket, and hopefully we'll get to see you next time around in 2024.
Absolutely. I'll be here, and I've heard whispers of where we're going next, so I'm excited for that. But I got to give a huge shout out to Cover Seal, Bucked Up, MCU Body, Linux, Ryko, and all the work that they do on the setups in the Coke Series. The most competitive I've ever been, so huge shout out to them and huge thank you. And also big thank you to FGRXL as well.
It sounds like we've also got second place finisher Logan Clampett with us, and Joey has caught up with him.
Congratulations, Logan, on the second place finish here at Martinsville, taking home $500. How does that feel?
Feels good, man. Definitely very close there to the $4,000, but it's that's okay. I had a very fun finish. I don't know about fun race. There are a lot of cautions. But I had a fun finish with Breyer there.
We've already heard from Breyer as well as a few others. The aggression level was on top notch. So we got to say, tip of the cap to you for not just throwing it down there during that white flag lap. Or were you thinking about maybe moving the 19 out of the way to get that $4,000?
If I was behind him, I probably would have, I don't know, maybe like a small little bump or something, maybe. I'm not sure. But either way, probably wouldn't have gotten him. And race how you want to be raced. I've been watching these Coke races, and let me tell you, it's ridiculous to see these drivers race how they do. Especially in these situations. I know a lot of people who would have just driven it in and shoved them up the track, but I'm not like that. I want to have a good race, a good finish, and I wouldn't want anyone to race me like that. So that's all I wanted, and I'm very happy for Breyer. I know he just moved, so I'm sure he needs the money a lot more than I do. And Breyer is a very, very respectful racer and very nice. If it was someone else who I've seen race very dirty in races, it probably would have been different. But I just do not see Breyer racing dirty at all. He races everyone's with respect. And, I'm going to race him, how he races everyone else. And some people just don't have that mindset, I guess, like I do. And it's disappointing to see. But, great finish. And I'm very, very happy for Breyer.
I loved that answer. I feel like it could be clipped and probably played at a lot of drivers' meetings, and some drivers could learn a thing or two. But we saw you really up there in second place the majority of the first half of this race, and then was the first car to make that strategy call to come down pit road for those fresh tires. Were you expecting some other drivers to follow you down, or were you a little lonely out there in the back?
Yeah, I was expecting drivers to follow me down a little bit more because my plan was kind of like how I did it, except I didn't want Malik out in the front. I wanted to be out in front. But it kind of worked out. I just had a little bit more wear on my tires than I would have liked. But not a whole lot you can do in those situations. You kind of have to, you just kind of have to guess. Like I really wanted to be the first one to pit, and then hopefully everyone else came in, and then I would be out front. Almost worked like that. Didn't really work like that how I wanted it to. And Briar was able to easily get around me there on one of the restarts, and my tires were just they were just gone compared to his. So I'm pretty happy to get second. Honestly, I was expecting to fall back on one of those restarts.
Well, my last question for you, since you said your tires were pretty much roasted there at the end and Briar had the good stuff, how did you get inside of him there on that last lap?
Dude, he was just getting nervous, man. And I don't blame him. It's a lot of money. But yeah, I think he just overdrove center, and he was trying just too easy on the throttle off the corner. And I was able to kind of just get under him right there, entering the last corner. And I was hoping he would lock up the brakes or something in that last corner, and I would have gotten him. But he didn't. He was able to hang on to his nerves there that last corner.
Well, Logan, once again, congrats on that second place, and have fun with that $500.
All right, thank you.
That was the driver of the number 44 coming home second today, Logan Clampett.
And that's a quick chat with the top three finishers, but want to bring back into the broadcast booth the Brandon DeBarrier. And Brandon, congratulations on a good result. We talked pre-race, and I think you said you were looking to get a top 20 out of it or so, but a P13 and on the lead lap is more than what half the field could say. How was your night?
It was actually really up and down. Lap 39, there was a big wreck on the front stretch that I got involved in. And on caution laps, I kept getting 4X from getting hit from behind. So I had to ride for lap 39 the rest of the way through. I had to run without getting another incident because I was already sitting at 16, and 17 was a drive-through penalty. So to come back being like I think lower 20s to bring it back to 13th was definitely something to be proud of in my first bowl race, and I look forward to coming back to do more.
Yeah, we'll be back at it again when we go racing in the winter at Phoenix. Can we expect to see you competing to qualify for that one?
Yes, I'm going to do my best in the heat races to get my way in, and I'm looking forward to hopefully going for a top 10 or maybe even, I don't know, be one of those underdogs. Never know what can happen in those races, but Phoenix, I'm very comfortable there. So, yeah, I'll be doing my best.
It was a good night for you in your debut. We appreciate the time. I know it's been a long night, so we'll let you get out of here, Brandon. But again, congratulations.
All right. Thank y'all.
So that is Brandon DeBarrier, who comes home 13th in his debut, and a lot of good storylines to take away from this one, guys. I think at the end of it all, it's a tale of two races, right? It starts with all the yellows. We get the green flag run in the middle. And then for old Joe of kind of the messy racing and the contact, especially at 40 to go, 30 to go, 20 to go, was getting real physical. The battle for the win, the battle for the $4,000 grand prize here. Cleanest battle I think we saw all night. And I think that goes to show and speak about the professionalism of those two drivers.
Yeah, absolutely. That was fantastic to see. I was hoping it wouldn't come to that because I wanted to see this come down to a fair fight, and it really did. And you could see how much it meant to them even in the interviews after the race, Joey, where they spoke so much about the importance of getting a fair race.
Well, and like I was mentioning, you could pretty much clip what they were saying there and play it in some drivers' meetings. And I think a few drivers could probably learn a thing or two just about a little bit of respect out there on the racetrack, and look at how far it goes with your competitors.
You can race hard. There's a lot of money on the line. But again, when it came down to it, some of the very best in the game raced clean side by side with the better sum of that $5,000 prize on the line between the two of them. And as I mentioned off at the top, now with the 3rd annual Fall Bowl in the books, we've now been racing with this eRacing Association Omega Cup for 3 full years now. And we're not slowing down anytime soon, Joe. We will be back. The Winter Bowl is headed to Phoenix Raceway in Avondale, Arizona this December.
Yeah, looking forward to that one because such a unique track. Very difficult, very technical, but wide open racing with lots of different lines.
Another short track, Joey, to that point, right? Another short track, but maybe that's a debatable topic given the length of it. But, Martinsville here tonight was the first time we've ever seen Martinsville on the calendar. So why not stick with that trend? We've never raced here at Phoenix in the ERA.
Not only the short track, but very similar to that road course style of racing. Again, a pretty flat track, depending on which turn numbers you're looking at. So expect another different crop of drivers to be up front.
And if you want to get involved in that one, now is the time to do it. eragaming.gg/membership. Sign up today, and we'll see you on track in December. Until next time, though, that is it for us here tonight from Martinsville. I want to say a big thanks to all the people behind the scenes who make this broadcast possible. For Jesse Wuji, Matt Casto, Kevin Johnson, and Sean Yoder, the team over at the eRacing Association. And for the team here at Podium Esports behind the scenes, for Gary Sexton, John Theodore, Brandon Davis, Michael Hall, Cameron Arbordon running social media for us tonight. As always, our cameras are provided by Dougie Beard. And last but not least, of course, for your broadcast team tonight. For our producer, Ryan Bauer, for Joey Atterbury, Joe Peak, and myself, Evan Pasoko, I want to say thank you for tuning in, and congratulations go to that man right there, Briar LaPrade, a $4,000 winner in the 2023 Omega Cup Fall Bowl. Of course, there is plenty of action coming up here on a Podium. Make sure you join us for all of our broadcasts. But until next time, we'll see you when we say let's go racing once more. The ERA Omega Cup Winter Bowl is coming your way. We'll see you in December.